Welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This week we get an origin story. We all have one, and Snake Eyes begins as a boy when he witnesses the tragically brutal murder of his father. That night forever shapes the rest of his life and the person he becomes. He even adopts his new name based on the events of that night. He also becomes consumed by a blinding vengeance, which causes him to betray the only other family he has ever known, creating a catastrophic fallout from which he won't likely recover. So, Tammy, what did you think about Snake Eyes? Did it crap out or was it a winner?
It was good. I enjoyed watching it. I'm going to stick to my opinion that I think the casting of Henry Golding was not the best, but overall I enjoyed the movie.
Why didn't you like Henry Golding as the...
I just didn't think that he fit the role. I didn't think the role was for him. Also, like, I understand, like, he was really, like, he's supposed to be like this really good looking guy, but his bulk up did not make him look better. And that happens sometimes. So looking at him in Snake Eyes, I wasn't like, ooh, he looked good. Like, I didn't have the same like opinion that I did when I saw him in Crazy Rich Asians. So yeah, it just didn't hit me with him as Snake Eyes at all. Like, it really, yeah, I did not enjoy his casting, but overall, the movie in general, the storyline and everything, I enjoyed it for what it was. But him as Snake Eyes, no. Like, I'm sure there was better people that could have been there.
So do you think they should have stuck originally with what a lot of people wanted? Like, the reason why a lot of people were against Henry Golding being cast as Snake Eyes, because they all said that Snake Eyes was white. So do you think they should have stuck with a Caucasian actor or
No, I
another?
just didn't think he was the best Asian actor for the part. I agree with them making Snake Eyes Asian, but him as the casting, I did not agree with.
Okay. I am going to have to disagree with that. Go figure. Um, I too enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really good. I at first, and I remembered as I was watching it, it was better than I thought it was going to be. First of all, I don't put a lot of stock into some of those movies, especially ones based on cartoons and comics that aren't necessarily superhero movies. Um, so I went in with lower expectations, but as I was trying to avoid the reviews, which I generally do before we go in to watch something, I couldn't help but come across the headlines, and mostly the headlines were not positive regarding the movie. And I remember we talked about it before when it was first announced. You said you weren't a big fan of him being cast. So it's interesting to see that after you saw the movie, your mind didn't change. But so when I went in, at first I was thinking, okay, maybe she might be right, because I was thinking that maybe they should have flipped it. That Andrew Koji, who played Tommy, would have been a better Snake Eyes. I love Andrew Koji. He's in this great show called Warrior on HBO Max. If you have not seen Warrior, I highly, highly recommend that you watch it. It is an awesome show. But so I thought Andrew Koji might have been a better Snake Eyes, but Henry Golding, he did grow on me. I did come to see it, and I thought Andrew Koji was actually, once it all played out, I was like, oh, that is a perfect casting. So I did like the casting. He did grow on me as Snake Eyes. I thought he bulked up okay. Like, I really did not have a big problem with it. Maybe Louis Tan might have been a better fit, but he was already in that horrible Mortal Kombat movie. But yeah, it's just interesting to see where it goes. And it also was interesting that the movie didn't just tell the story, origin story of Snake Eyes, but you also got an origin story of Storm Shadow. So I really liked that it was kind of all encompassing, and especially for those of us who are not like a big G.I. Joe fan. Were you a big G.I. Joe fan growing up?
Nope, not at all.
The comic, the cartoon, none of it.
Nope. I mean, I watched it, but to be a fan, no.
Yeah. It was just one of those things that you saw when it came on. I was like, oh, okay. And then you just always remember that silly song, G.I. Joe. Oh, sorry, my voice isn't warmed up yet. But G.I. Joe. So I remembered that. Um, so what else did you like about the movie?
I like the action. I like the rest of the casting. I thought they did a good job for the rest of the casting. Um, I like the origin story, like how it came about. More the origin story of Snake Eyes rather than the origin story of Storm Shadow. I thought that was very abrupt, and so it made it feel rushed on how he just became Storm Shadow. But yeah, but like the action and the tricks and the stunts, that's the word, and the stunts were really good for what the movie was supposed to be, because I watched both of the GI Joe movies and I enjoyed them, the first one more than the second one, but I still enjoyed both. So I was already a fan of the whole Snake Eyes. So, you know, it just kept on par with the other ones with the action and the stunts and everything like that. So it was cool.
Yeah, I I agree with you, but I saw, because I got them confused. I always, and I don't know why. And I think even when watching the movies, I get them confused, and I always get Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow confused. Shows you how big of a fan I am. As far as which one, you would think, because white is the symbol of purity and greatness and all this kind of stuff. You would think that Snake Eyes would be the one in white and Storm Shadow would be the one in black, because black, quote unquote, and that archetype represents evil or bad or whatever. So I would always get them confused. So every time I saw Tommy, and he, especially when he would wear the all white, like when they were going out, I'm like, oh, okay. And so that kind of gave me a hint that I was supposed to be looking out for something. So I think along the way, even though the movie was about Snake Eyes, we see how Storm Shadow develops and the things that happen, like how ultimately it is Snake Eyes' portrayal that leads him to becoming Storm Shadow. So I felt like they did that justice, considering it wasn't a movie necessarily about Storm Shadow. So I thought it was kind of fitting, because you saw moments of it when he was just so determined about him actually ended up being the petulant little kid who, when he doesn't get his way, he turns and he leaves, and he kind of betrays the whole family. So I did like that part of the story. Who was your least favorite, or who was your most favorite character? I'll ask that first. Did you have a favorite character?
Um, Not really. Like I did like Tommy, because I think that the actor played the role very well, and you understood where he was coming from, especially at the end when he blew up at his grandmother. Like, I understood where he was coming from. Like, I definitely got that. That's why I felt like it was a little abrupt on how um flipped it was towards the end, because I think Snake Eyes got away with his bullshit. I liked Scarlet. She was badass. And Akiko, is that her name?
Yeah.
Akiko. So yeah, so I think they would be like my favorite characters. Was Tommy, Akiko, and Scarlet would be my favorite characters of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Now I do. Hold the phone. Are we agreeing? I agree with you on the part. I did understand where Tommy was coming from, even though I say he acted like a petulant child. And you kind of get the reason why he took it so far, is because when he was talking in the movie about modernizing the family, and how he wanted to kind of not necessarily bring them out of the shadows, but bring them out of some of their old ways. And so you kind of got that, and he had worked hard, so hard, and he had done everything by the book. In that one moment, which you understand, it's like, okay, this dude basically tried to have me killed. He's been trying to kill me my whole life, basically. And I do something to end the threat. It wasn't like he was using it as power, like Kanata was, or Kanta, whatever his name was. but he was basically using it in that moment to protect his family. So it's like, okay, that was the unforgivable thing, which cost him his birthright. But on the other hand, you're going to let Snake Eyes, basically, who was the cause of all this, get away with it. Like, I agree with you for there. I'm like, okay, shouldn't he have some more penance to pay? Is it because of what happens at the end, with the snakes? Because he finally passes the final test when he's not even being tested. Is that why he was able? So I agree with you. I do have a problem with how they just let Snake Eyes off of the hook so easily. Even though ultimately he did the right thing, but it was everything else that got him there that was kind of a little problematic. Um, I actually wanted a little bit more action. I love martial arts, and I love martial arts movies, and I know this wasn't necessarily that, but I could have stood for a little bit more action.
Um, I don't know. Like I was satisfied with the action because it's an origin story. So it's the first of, they hope, many or more to go from there. So depending on how good it can do, and they can approve a sequel, then I'm sure more action will come, especially when he joins the GI Joes. But I thought it was good for what it was. The motorcycle action, the fighting with the swords and all of that, definitely I thought it was satisfactory.
Just satisfactory on an action
It
scale
ain't an
where
Oscar movie.
what, you would not put this up for an Oscar?
I wouldn't put this up for a Golden Globe.
Oh, dang.
But I
Why?
would put it up for like an MTV movie, movie movie
Well,
movie awards.
considering at this stage of the game, MTV Movie Awards probably have a little bit more panache and a little bit more oomph behind them than the
Well,
Golden Globes.
they pick more of the movies that people actually watch, and that's why I would say like it'd be more MTV than like the Oscars or the Golden Globes, which are so out of touch with society. So
Yeah, and considering the Golden Globes really, I don't think anybody wants to be nominated for a Golden Globe at this point. But yeah, okay, I can see that. Um, I I think that I did like the action, although I could have used a little bit more. I'm just an action junkie, I guess, especially when it comes to these movies and the fight scenes. I love, like I said, martial arts. Even though it's kind of hard for me to watch MMA because of all the blood and stuff. Go figure. But I could have used a little bit more. I thought that they did a great job of telling the story, even though what I'm about to say probably isn't going to make much sense. I think the writing could have been a little better. Does that make sense?
you sure it wasn't the acting?
I I liked the acting. I did. I thought maybe it could have been, well, the Cobra chick, she was a little, I'm going to use my, I think this might be the first time I'm using a Tammy phrase. She was a little cartoonish.
That was in my head on the acting. Yeah, like I was so gonna say that, but I was gonna let you finish your thought. And I was gonna say, like, some of the acting was a little cartoonish. Like, yeah, like Tommy, I thought, like, I've never seen Warrior, so I don't know the actor. But I just loved him as Tommy. Like, I thought he really did a good job, and he didn't phone it in, which is being a cartoon actor. But you could definitely see, like, some people, it was like you must be like a D-list actor or actress, and they're just trying to give you a chance for this big movie because they ain't got to pay you that much. They only got to pay you a couple $1,000s, and you showing that that $1,000 may have been a little too much, like, kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, oh, well, again, thank you for mentioning it. This is my plug for Warrior. Not only do I recommend you watch Warrior, I recommend everyone watch Warrior. It is such a great show. And it's based in history, and I could go on about that show forever, but it's really, really good. The first two seasons again are on HBO Max. It's been renewed for a third season, so I'm so excited about that. at least HBO Max. Well, I can't because they canceled another one of my shows, but I will say they're a little better with Netflix. They're renewing some of the good shows. Yeah, here's looking at you, Ninja Assassin. So I can't even remember now. I'm having a brain fart because I'm going all the way off base. But anyway, yes, you're
They
right.
renewed it for a movie.
I know, but still, I wanted a
Like
series.
2 movies, not one, but 2.
Oh, we got 2? I didn't know it was 2. Okay, I can feel a little better now. Okay. So, but yeah, Andrew Koji is just a great actor, and I hope he gets more. Just as, even with Warrior, I hope he gets more leading man roles and leading film roles, and he's amazing. He's really good. Um, I again, like I said, I liked Henry Golding in the role. I think though that he could have been better, if that makes sense. Um, to me, I was more excited about Tommy Scenes and Andrew Koji, although I do think that he was okay in the role. So maybe I might be agreeing with you a little bit more. I don't necessarily think he was the wrong actor for the role. I just think that they could have probably written it better for him, maybe. I don't know.
That's just you excusing the fact that they could have had a better actor in the role.
No, I actually I do like the casting. I think he did great. I think he did fine in the role. I don't have a problem with him being GI Joe. GI Joe. I don't have a problem with him being Snake Eyes. I just think that they could have done it a little better. Like, yeah. So, I who else was a little cartoonish? The the Kanta dude. He had his moments where he was where it was a little bit like what, and I didn't buy I don't know, he didn't instill fear in me as the leader of the Yakuza, or and then as whatever else he was supposed to be. I don't know if he was just a great big bad, I guess, or a great villain. And maybe if they hadn't intertwined it with Cobra, he might have been better. I don't know. What do you think?
I thought he did great in the role of playing the movie villain. And understanding, like, it was kind of like ingrained in him on how evil he was and the reason why he couldn't actually pass the test and everything like that, because he didn't know about the snakes in the hole. So obviously you ain't passed the test. But I thought he did good, and he also was like the driving force for Tommy's revenge, or avenging his family. And knowing who Tommy was, because you saw, like, he definitely knew who Tommy was. He knew what buttons to press, which helped Snake Eyes get into the family. What was Snake Eyes' name again?
Snake Eyes.
He never revealed the name of him.
No, not even as a kid.
Okay. Oh,
I don't
okay.
think we found.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever found out his name because his dad was just like, "Okay, son," and then they would call him Snake or Snake Eyes. I think that's just the name.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, and knowing what to tell Snake Eyes in order to get in with it. So I didn't consider him to be a cartoonish villain. I would more pick the Baroness as being a cartoonish villain, and I think that was partly on the actress and maybe her lines, if you want to put the script out there. But no, but I like Kenta as the villain that he was.
Yeah. I guess because I don't know, and I guess maybe that might be my problem is that I guess you always need a way to kind of intertwine Cobra. So I guess I was disappointed when ultimately Cobra had such a big role in, I guess, if that makes sense. It might have taken away from it a little bit because maybe it was her. And just, I didn't like the character of the Baroness, I guess, is what I'm saying. They could have done without that aspect. And ultimately, I think, tell me if I'm wrong or if you disagree. I think ultimately the way they wrote it out and the way it all played out is he could have still had his revenge. Like Cobra could have been in the background. We could have heard the name. It could have been an introduction. We didn't necessarily need the Baroness. once he got to the dude who killed his father, um, then he could have told him, hey, once Cobra, like all of that could have still been accomplished without us necessarily meeting the villainess. Like he could have said, hey, once Cobra sends you to do something, and that would have given him his mission for meeting, um, whatever, for his revenge and finding out the Joes and finding out the role that the true role that Cobra had and played in his father's death. That still would have been able to send him on the mission. And then actually we could have met the Baroness at the end when she recruits Tommy or Storm Shadow into Cobra. Like that would have been a great end scene. I think that would have been better served than actually diverting the focus to Cobra, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think the Baroness is a bigger deal of being a villain because she's going to come back now that Storm Shadow is in partnership with her. I just think it was the actress and the fact of saying I hate like the sexualization of like real powerful strong women, because who the fuck is fighting in 7-inch heels? Nobody. But she was wearing those stiletto heels like and fighting with stiletto heels on. Like, come on. But you know, not to knock her skill, but woman, if you want to put on some flats and get it popping. But yeah, like I just think it's because she's gonna play a bigger role in the next movies. And the one thing another thing I loved about the movie was when she partnered up with Scarlett. She was just like, look, we got a common enemy now. And it was like all the women fighting together to kick ass, including Grandma. Like I love that they put that in there, showing that the women were just as badass as the men. Love that. It just empowers me every single time like I see that in a movie. And then not just having them there as like sex pots, which used to be a big thing where the women would kind of be like, oh, they're badass, but then you'd never let them show their skills. But to have them show their skills with their partner with each other rather than just fighting with the men there, definitely I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I love watching movies with powerful women, badass women. I'm all for making more action hero movies or action movies with women, roles that we typically see men play. Spy series movies. I'm all for giving those characters to women and allowing them to take the lead and show that we can do it. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And a couple things, just backtracking really quick. Yeah, and I think the Baroness would have served perfectly at the end scene, the end credit scene when she recruits, because in Marvel, not to compare it to a Marvel movie, but the first time really that we meet Nick Fury is in an end credit scene in the first Iron Man, and then we know who he is and we know he's going to play a bigger role. So we know she's the Baroness, and we know that if the series continues, then she's going to play a bigger role. So I just don't think that she necessarily was needed for this movie, and it kind of took away from the focus, I guess, of having all the attention be on Kenta as the big bad. So that was just my opinion. But I do love that scene that you're talking about, and I guess maybe that's where I wanted more action. Specifically, is I actually wanted to see the women kick ass, because we see them get together, but then when Joe, not why do I keep saying Joe? Because it's a G.I. Joe origin story. But when Snake Eyes and I think it was the Hard Master that he was with, when they went to go get the women or go protect them or go help them or whatever, it's like they already had that shit handled. And it's like we didn't see any of it. We just saw the door open. So I guess that was one of the scenes where I specifically would have loved to see them handle it and see them kick ass. Because the next times we see them fight, we do see them, like you say, as secondary characters or in service to the men. And speaking of Grandma, she was one of my favorite characters because she kicked ass. Grandma was just straight up an ass kicker. Her and that little fan and her and that little walk in that kimono. Grandma was all about it. So I love that. And one thing I could never figure out was that Kenta's real grandma. Like, dude, you're that cold that you're just gonna kill your grandma? Like, you're willing to blow up your
No,
grandma?
she was just like the grandma of the family, but she was only the real grandma of Tommy. That's
Tommy,
why
okay,
it was his. But Kenta grew up like as
with
close to
Tommy.
her as Tommy was, but she wasn't actually his family.
Okay, because I remember Tommy saying they grew up together, and I'm like, okay, so are they real cousins or is it just cousins because he grew up with them in the clan or what have you? Um, and then because I was like, dude, you got to be a cold mofo to actually want to go and take your grandma out like that. But he was a cold mofo. So, um, I love the snake. I love the scene with the snakes. The first one where they were like, "Clear your heart," and Akiko went in to help him. You could tell that she was falling in love with him. That was cool, and I'm glad they didn't let the movie get overtaken by an unnecessary romance. I'm also channeling my inner Tammy there.
Um, I would have liked it if she hadn't fallen for him at all. I thought that was so fake. Did not fall for it at all on her developing feelings for him, anything like, not at all. Like, I'm like, okay, so you just like, you're attracted to him, but you're not actually falling for him. You're just attracted to him. Like, you think he cute. Like, okay, you think he cute, but you're a badass woman. But you gonna literally let him get over on you. Like, you've been fighting with his family for how long, and you gonna let him beat you? Give me a fucking break. Like, I hated that whole thing. But then, you know, it could have partly gone on the fact of like, I just didn't believe Snake Eyes being able to beat her like that. Like, you're not the best fighter in the family. How all of a sudden you become the best fighter in the family? Like,
When
you're
did he
up with
beat?
top. Like, no.
When did he beat her?
When he took the stone and
Oh,
she let him hit her to the ground, and then she just laid there.
yeah, I'm with you. I guess it's because she didn't want to kill him. I don't know what it was. Her feelings got in the way. But
Or Tommy, when they were fighting on the thing, and it's kind of like you're seeing it and you're like, so you're telling me that Tommy been training like this for how from birth, and you're a match for him? Like, I just didn't believe that nonsense, but you know, it's for
wait,
the movie purpose.
when they were fighting where on the truck?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? But you know what I think it is? I think at that moment, because they really, and I think that's also why Tommy went completely, did a complete 180 on his character in the end, is because of Snake Eyes' betrayal. Like they were blood brothers. And it's like you betrayed that. And so it was like, but I agree with you. I'm attaching that to their emotions involved. Like they didn't want to kill him. Like at that point, I think, and it also explains to me why in some of the lore why it was so hard for Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow to necessarily kill each other. Is because of that bond that they had. So I think that was it. But I agree. It's like in a true hand to hand fight, especially given at that moment he hadn't become the true Akashi. I'm just gonna call him Akashi because you know I don't know the name. You know I'm somewhere close, but I know it begins with an A. But he hadn't become a true Akashi warrior or whatever at that point. Oh wait, it's an yeah, I can't pronounce that. But he hadn't become a true warrior at that point. So I think I'm going to accredit that more to their feelings. And with you, I agree. And I guess that's why I'm glad they didn't try to force in any more than they did the romance part of it. I'm glad they went the whole K drama route, as I will say, with it and just kind of insinuate because I'm with you. Yes, he's very attractive. He is an attractive man. I get that. You know, if that's someone you just want to get it in with, okay, cool. But I don't see there was nothing redeeming about him to make you want to fall in love with him unless she had a Captain Save a whole complex and she thought she could save him. Like that to me was kind of like so I'm glad they didn't go there.
That's hilarious because you're calling Snake Eyes the hoe.
I am. Hey, he had a whole life. You think after them MMA fights, he didn't find someone in all those towns to go help him lick his wounds and heal those bruises? I'm just saying.
Okay.
You know, out there somewhere, there is some porn being made now based on Snake Eyes. I'm just saying. You know. Um. So they were supposed to use this as the linchpin for rebooting the entire franchise and the entire series. And because it did so poorly, um, they don't know if that is going to continue. Do you think it would have been better received if they had stuck to uh, a virtual premiere, a virtual? watching, like if they had just done an Amazon or a Paramount thing, sold it to Netflix and let it go from there? Or do you think it would have done better if it had been released originally like it was supposed to last year, or what?
No, I don't think it would have done better if it had been released last year like it was supposed to. Because I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was still like a it still wasn't a great movie. I just enjoyed watching it. But I
Hmm.
have a lower bar when it comes to movies. But like if it had been a streaming service, I'm sure it would have done better if it had been premiered on Prime or Netflix, because then more people would have watched it just because they already paid the monthly fee for that. So, they wouldn't have had to go out of their house, go to the movies, spend more, like all of that. It would have already been in their fee. So they'd have been good. So yeah, I'm sure they would have done better. Being on a streaming service, it probably would have done better. Um, but I don't know how it
Yeah.
did either. Like, how much did
Yeah.
it pay? I don't know.
It came in second to Old, and last week was a slow week, and it's slowing down. Everyone's talking about the box office slowing down again, and I'm like, okay, we're in the middle of what, our millionth surge of this shit, and the Delta variant is the worst so far. So yeah, people are going to, be a little bit more cautious about where they go out their house and in the movies, especially since they're no longer spacing out like they were in the beginning when the theaters first opened, which I think is a big mistake. So people are a little bit more skeptical about that, and I agree with you. It probably should have been something that they released on a service. But in my opinion, and let me know if you agree or disagree, I'm sure you will. It was the best of the GI Joe movies, like of the franchise so far. It was probably all around. It was definitely better than the second one with The Rock or Dwayne Johnson in it when he took over for Channing Tatum. The Channing Tatum one, the original one, it was cute. It was serviceable. It did what it did. It was really cartoonish, and it was just like a guilty pleasure movie. It was something I liked better than I thought I would because the bar was set so low for that movie, but it was okay. And I guess of the three, this was probably my favorite, and it was the best of the three, in my opinion. What about you?
I disagree. Just because I don't think I'm going to be watching this one again. And when the GI Joe movie came out, the first one with Channing Tatum, like I watched that more than once. Like I enjoyed it. I like the comic relief of I believe it was Marlon Wayans. It was that Wayans brother, as well as Scarlett. Like I like the actors from the first movie. I enjoyed the first movie. I know like it wasn't received that well, but like I said, my bar is way lower than other people's. But yeah, I'm not gonna watch this. But the reason why is, once again, I'm not sold on Henry Golding. I think that I enjoyed the overall movie, but I probably wouldn't watch it again just because he's the star of the movie and I was not sold on him being Snake Eyes. So, being that you're the star of the movie and I'm not sold on you playing the star of the movie, I'm probably never watching this movie again.
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Um, so do you think they should continue the series?
Sure. Yeah, it'll make
Uh,
money.
yeah, like
They may
okay,
want to change the concept of, how they make the money, um but if they change the concept, they probably lose the actor. But which I guess would be a good thing for me. But yeah, I would love to see a second one of um, Tommy fully as Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes going up against each other with Cobra in the background. Bringing in more GI Joes. Like, yeah, I would watch the second one. I'd watch the second one. Yeah.
yeah, I would too, and I'm with you. I wanted the one person that I wanted to see more of in this movie was Scarlet. So I was excited, but and when they introduced the Baroness, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to see more of Scarlet. But unfortunately, we saw more of the Baroness than we did of Scarlet. So I think that would be cool, especially if they're saying that there was a talk about doing another one with The Rock or Dwayne Johnson, which I think if they're going to do that, they should just reboot it entirely and get someone else to play GI Joe and all of that. But and then there's talk of a Lady J series, and the one that I am the least excited about is a GI Joe Transformers crossover. No, please do not do that.
I did not hear of that, but okay.
Yeah, you sound about as excited as I am. When I read that, I was like, God, no. That ranks up there with them doing a Fast and Furious musical. No, definitely not. I've heard Vin Diesel sing. No. So, yeah. All right. Well, how would you rate this lovely, lovely, great piece of cinema?
I'm gonna give it a 2.75. I enjoyed it overall, but I mean, it wasn't a great movie. It was just a movie that, I mean, I enjoyed I knew the concept, it surprised me on it being better than I thought it was, because I had a very, very low bar for it, and it reached the bar and went over it. So 2.75. That's my rating.
Okay. We're not that far off. I gave it a 3. Simply because I loved Andrew Koji so much as Tommy. It kind of made me want a movie with just the Storm Shadow. It's like, oh, now I want a bad guy movie. But yeah, and of course, and I loved Grandma, and like I said, I don't think Henry Golding was bad as Snake Eyes. I'm not as opposed to the casting as you are. I just don't think that they wrote it right for him or something. A lot of my problems were with the script, I guess. But yeah, and the Baroness. So I give it a 3, a solid 3, and I would watch it again. But I think they should have probably stuck to a streaming premiere for it. And I do hope that there is a sequel. I would love it. Like you said, I think that would be the perfect sequel. They kind of set it up for that. And kind of take into the fact that, everything that's going on may be playing into the box office, not being what they expected. So we will see. Well, that does it. Do you have any further comments before we close? Any comments? Anything else you want to mention?
Nope.
About this future Oscar winner?
Nope.
Hey, Emily in Paris was nominated for a Golden Globe and an Emmy, so anything's possible. So that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify Podcasts. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop, pop, pop. Our anniversary / birthday passed, and I still did not get my sound effect, Tammy. And there you go, leaving me hanging. She's like, I don't care, rolling her eyes. But anyway, thank you as always. And be sure to join us next week when we talk about Never Have I Ever. Can't wait to see if Davy gets her stuff together or she's still a hot mess. So until next week, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Bye.